Text 51551. Drive Time on RTE Radio 1.
Do you fight with your family over board games at Christmas time? Well, let's be honest, who doesn't? For some reason, this time of year can turn some of us into super competitive people who will have the biggest of rows with your brother or your sister over a game of cards or Monopoly. So, why does this happen and what can you do to avoid becoming this person? We're joined on the line now by Pádraig Walsh, who's behavioural psychologist. And you're very welcome, Pádraig, back to the programme this evening. They won't play Monopoly with me in my house anymore. Nobody will do it.
Are you that competitive, Sarah?
I figure if you open it and you start the game, you need to see it out to the end.
Oh, and that's one of the big problems with board games is that oftentimes as we revert back to our teenage selves and like that, the environment of the home that we grow up in, the one thing we know in about human behavior is environment influences behavior. So if we go back into the environment that we were a teenager in, that we had sibling rivalries in, that we fell out over board games with in the past, even if it's been 20, 30 years since we've been back in that space, we immediately revert back to our teenage selves there, which can be really, really tricky. So look, it's I'm not surprised that they don't play Monopoly with you because it's a very, very common theme that emerges.
So when it comes to board games then, is it best to avoid them if this is something that you know happens in your house, or should you all try and grow up a little bit and just play the game and play to the end?
No, it's a real tradition, playing board games, playing card games around Christmas. And one of the key things to tune into is, why do we want to do this? What is the reason for it? Usually it's because we want to turn off the TV, switch off our devices and spend time together rather than win that game of Monopoly. And I think one of the really good things to do, Sarah, is at the start of it, when we sit down, is to call that, is to say, this is why we're doing this. We want to spend time together. We don't want anyone getting too competitive in the game.
It doesn't work, Pádraig. You're only kind of goading the competitive one then.
Are you the competitive one in your house, Cormac?
Well, I'll tell you what
do
happens.
You think now, Pádraig? Take a guess.
No, I'll tell you, it's not board games, it's discussions in our house. There's a few agent provocateurs and they just won't let it go. And the rest of them are wrong, Pádraig.
Do people come into your houses and start asking about the All-Ireland final? Or is that
it
still
could be
a subject?
It could be that, or it could be politics, or it could be Trump, or it could be anything, really. Anything. As long as one person takes a position, you know. Sorry.
We talked before on this show about the importance of small talk and the rules around small talk, and it's a good time to refresh on those, I think. So some of the things that are okay for small talk are general chit chat around the weather, around sport, around the arts, around celebrity gossip. Things that are not okay around small talk are personal appearance, politics, religion. So even if you're bringing up
there's nothing small about this talk, I can tell you. I mean, you have to go beyond.
That's the problem, though, isn't it?
But once the turkey's on the table, you have to go beyond the small talk. Don't you agree, Sarah?
No.
I mean,
no, I agree with Pádraig on this, actually. I think it's a really good idea not to bring politics to the Christmas dinner table.
No, hang on a second.
Or religion.
Count me out of any discussion that is small talk for 2 hours.
It doesn't have to be small, though. It just doesn't have to be political or religious.
Shaffodge.
You know?
What's small talk then? What is it?
One of the things.
Sorry, Pádraig, go on.
The weather for 2 hours, is that it?
No, like there's other things outside of politics and religion. Go on, Pádraig, you're the expert. Let the expert speak.
No, one of the things to really be acutely aware of this time of year is that the days are at their shortest. The weather is at its worst, and we are usually all crowded into a small space. There's lots of people there in a small space. So it's important to know your own triggers. So if it is politics, if it is sporting occasions, if it is a particular thing personal to you, to be aware of that and to be okay with taking breaks. And like the Scandinavians say, there's no such thing as bad weather, there's just bad clothing. So when you're going home at Christmas, just to be aware to bring your boots, to get out of the house, to give yourself that break. So you're not getting caught up in those wound up situations.
So if the conversation starts turning in one of those directions and you know how that conversation's going to go because you've seen it play out every year for the last 20 years, maybe just get up and go for a walk.
It can be like I think about this like a pint of diluted Ribena. If somebody comes and drops a bomb and starts talking about a particular topic that you're not so sure you want to follow up on, you can't, if you're pouring a pint of Ribena and you pour in too much Ribena, you can't take that out. So you can't just turn away from the person and end the conversation, more often than not. But what you can do is you can add in more water. So bring in other people into the conversation. Hopefully they change the topic. Hopefully they dispel.
Have you met Cormac?
No. I thought when you mentioned a pint there, I thought you had a different solution.
Try distracting Cormac by bringing in other people to the conversation. Well, look, I mean, he's a particular case, Bork, but I think it's very good advice for most people.